This is the Polygons app, and this is the video on polygons made with vectors. We're going to start by going to the trail, clicking on it, and then we're going to advance till it starts to do polygons with vectors. So we have to get past the ones that were made with patterns. So I'm going to advance it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Now the next 9 instructions should be the ones that are made by vectors. So I advance 9, and sure enough it says call subprogram 6 tab 10, and it's entitled Polygon Created with Vectors. And here we see here program 6 tab 10. Here it's defining control registers, rotation 0, size 40, XY position 200, 70, and a counter it's going to use Z starting at 0. Then it's entering a for next loop and setting I to 0. Well, let's advance 9 instructions. Now we see it doing a vector. A vector that starts at the X, Y position and goes to direction R, which we know was starting at straight up, which is direction 0, and defining an X and Y value when going a distance of X, S, at direction R. Then it adds 1 to our counter of Z because we created another point. And then it adds 240 to the direction. Well, 0 is straight up, 240 is straight to the right. Then it says next I. Well, we know I was 0, so it add 1 to it, it's going to be 1. It's not greater than 3, so it's going to go back and create another vector. Now it's going to be value plus I, which is going to be 1, so it's a different offset. It is the same center position of X and Y. What really has changed is the direction. Now it's pointing to the right. Then it adds 1 to our counter that counts how many points we've made. Then it changes R by another 240. Now it's 480, which means pointing straight down. Then it goes to next I, and it makes I 2. Well, 2 is not greater than 3, so it's going to return to do another vector. And this time, all it's changed is the direction is straight down. Well, let's advance another 9. Now we see and add 1 to the counter. Change the direction again by 240. Now it's pointing straight to the left. Then it comes to the next I, and it says, well, I is now 3. It can go back again. And it does another vector. Now it's pointing straight to the left. Same position of X and Y. Of course, now I has increased because we're at another offset. We add 1 to the number of points we've defined. Now it adds 240 to R again, but it's not going to use it because next I now becomes 4. 4 is greater than 3, so it is not going to return and create another vector. Then it has the dot P action, which takes X and Y values and makes a dot list out of them. A dot list is what the polyfill action is going to use to actually draw the polygon. Dot P takes points. The number of points it takes is in the control register Z, which now is value of 4. Then we see it setting the color to 505. We'll advance another 9 instructions. then it draws the polygon and fills it in. Now, here's the first point was straight up, then there's point over to the right, point down, point to the left, and then it filled the polygon. Alright, let's advance another 9. Now we're at tab 11 in subprogram 6. Here we're setting the registers again, but now our Y value is 230, which is below this one. We're setting our Z to 16. We're going to tell it right away how many points we're going to create. That way we don't have to add 1 to Z every time we create a point. We know we're going to create 16 points. We set our I value to 0, and we'll start advancing. We advance 9 every time. We see that it's building more vectors, all based on the center point of X and Y. Sometimes it's adding 70 to the direction. Sometimes it's adding 50 to the direction. It's changing the size of the vectors. And we'll keep advancing 9. Keeps doing the same thing. It goes to the next J we see. Again, keeps making more and more vectors. It's going to make 16 altogether. Eventually we'll see it draw it. Okay? Here, it finally got done going through the loop of J here. Went through it to 4 times. Then it gets our dot P in action again, which takes X values and Y values and creates them into a dot list that can be used by Polygon fill. Alright, and the number of dots that it has in X and Y is in control register Z. Well, we know we can go to data up here in the red stripe and see these values that it created. So, I'm going to click on data. Now, X and Y are work lists. Normally this would have been on variables, but we want it on work lists, and particularly X value. Here we see the 16 values that it put in X. Alright, the X value list has these 16 values. We're going to return and do the same thing for Y values. We'll click on Y value, and we'll notice that there's 16 values in Y value. We return again, and down here we have selected subprogram 6, and if we go down and look under the counter of control register Z, it says there's 16 values. And there's our X and Y position of X200, Y230, because these are the control registers for subprogram 6, the one we're working in. So we'll leave data, and we'll see here that there are 16 points on this polygon, and that is our control by our dot P here, which made a dot list that the Polygon fill used. Now there's one more vector polygon it's going to make, and the only difference is it's going to change its value of R. That's its rotation. So we'll go into it and we'll click until it occurs. When we see the halt, it's going around the loops, creating the 16 points, and there it drew it. Now, it almost looks like it's in the same position. It's tilted a little bit because the value of R is changing. Alright? This is the video for polygons made with vectors.